Hello everybody and welcome to episode 16 of an Irish knitting podcast. Hi everybody, I'm Sam. I am an artist, illustrator and an aspiring knitting designer living in the Republic of Ireland. You can find me all around the internet looking for Irish farm art, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, of course on Ravelry and on Etsy, where I try and sell my original artworks and patterns as well. If you are a newcomer to this channel, thank you so much for coming by. This is my kind of crafty knitting podcast in which I try to follow the classic knitting podcast schedule, talking about finished works, works in progress, acquisitions, and literally anything and everything that is going on in my art and craft world. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I know we have so many new subscribers to this channel. And thanks so much for all the podcasters that mention my channel or share my content. That really means a lot to me. So let's get started into today's podcast. I do not have too many finished works as it's been a couple of weeks. It's been really busy in work and life gets through. But yeah, I still managed to knit up something. So I really hope you have your favorite cup of tea or coffee or any drinks, maybe gin and tonic if it's the right time of the day. And let's get started. Today I am going to start with this little Christmas decoration, holiday decoration, Christmas bubble, call them as you wish. So if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen that I have managed to knit up about 13 of this type of Christmas decorations. These are an original design that I came up with, an original construction as well that I really haven't seen before. And they come up piggybacking from Arne and Carlos' Christmas balls. I have got the book and all the other Christmas balls patterns that they published, and I am trying to knit them all. But in an urge to be creative and make something that was more suitable my knitting style, easier to follow, and of course something original, I decided to come up with my own pattern. These are knitted in the round with a magic loop technique, but I suppose you can use DPNs as well. It's a very simple construction and only takes like 20 minutes when you get the hang on the technique. They are knitted using Charisma from Drops, which is 100% wool DK yarn in the colorways Pearl Grey and Burgundy. And the two new designs are this lovely check pattern here. The original idea of this pattern was to create a little crownish pattern. And yeah, I got sidetracked by the design, and I kind of much prefer this type of color work here. And of course this one, which is becoming my most favorite. This is a little owl. I really hope you can see from the screen there the design. They are all stranded color work. Super easy, super quick to knit, and the shape is actually beautiful. I am stuffing them using old pillow stuffing that I don't really use anymore. They are not the best, as the pillow stuffing is really crunchy and really synthetic, so you can see there's a little indents in the ball. You can't really get it to fluff up as well as you would with proper stuffing or natural wool. But these are just prototypes. So the idea came from the Arne and Carlos Christmas balls and this urge for my creative side to come up and make something new and different. And the goal will be to have 24 of this lovely Christmas decoration in order to put together a sort of advent calendar for Christmas. The ultimate dream would be to partner with a yarn company in order to create some sort of kits for people to purchase and have everything to make these 24 Christmas balls. So the pattern in the box and as well the yarn. This is still a dream. I am on a weekly basis putting it out there on the internet and hoping that some yarn company will or some yarn dyer will be so kind to reach out and help me in this quest. So here we go with the first finished work. They are number 13 and 14 if I'm right. And I still have time to go. Nothing much really. In a couple of months I will get them done and then I will start working on the actual pattern and put it together the designs in writing. Then of course sending it to a tech editor and perhaps have some test knitters, although they are so easy that I'm kind of eager just to get them out in the world. We'll see. Going on with the finished works for this podcast, I have of course a pair of socks. These are another original design of mine. These socks are knitted using Coop Knits Sock Yeah, which is a sock yarn, 100% super soft wool. Actually, let me get the label, I am not quite sure about that. So, the yarn is a fingery weight yarn for Coop Knit and it's 75% merino wool, superwash and 25% nylon. And the colorways are the yellowish color, mustardy color is called citrine and the purplish color is called rondon. They are quite beautiful in my opinion. I so seldom go to an adventurous type of color combination, but I really love this color combination, and as well I actually love the yarn. It's so beautiful, it's so nice and squishy. I have never made socks with superwash merino wool, or at least a combination of superwash merino wool, but really it flies through the needles. The yarn itself, it's quite thin, much thinner than you would think your Fable or your Regia sock yarn. They are a little bit more lofty than this type of yarn, and therefore I went down to a needle size. The ribbing has been done on a 2mm needle size, while the rest of the sock on a 2.25, and usually I use a 2.5mm for the ribbing and a 2.75 for the sock itself, but using my regular size of needle, the sock would look a little bit too slouchy for my taste. These are an original design of mine, and they are of course knitted in the round from the cuff and down. All the way is stranded color work, even the heel itself. Let me talk about the heel a little bit. So I have no clue if you can see the heel from the screen there. It's very small and my camera is so far away, but this is a heel construction that I kind of reconstructed from my great grandmother's socks. They are a kind of heel flap and gusset situation where you have the heel flap. It's impossible to manage to show so on the camera, but you get the heel flap worked in the round with the gusset as well, and I decided to go with a combination of a 1x1 repeat on each color on the heel flap and just the purple color for the gusset, just to get some contrast there. And the heel flap is worked backward and forward using the contrasting color as well. You never have to pick up stitches using this method, and you would keep working the color work in the round. So it's a very, very good alternative, in my opinion, to a German short row heel or an afterthought heel if you want to keep the color work flowing through the sock. The increases for the gusset are made in the round with a heel flap, and the decreases are made back and forward, but they are made within the middle of the heel flap. So yeah, you end up having or creating the heel turn in the round as well, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me. My great-grandmother, I have no idea how she came up with this recipe of heel socks, but that was the general thing that she used to do, and I couldn't find it written anywhere, so I kind of made it up following an old sock that I have in the house, hand knitted by her. They are absolutely great and it's one of my favorite designs so far. So these are part of my Venetian collection dedicated to the buildings of the Grand Canal, and these are called the Bauer in honor or with the inspiration from the Bauer Hotel, the Bauer Palace, which is one of the greatest buildings that are facing the Grand Canal. I will talk more about this when the pattern is actually published. I have sent the written pattern to my tech editor and it's now back to me. A couple of test knitters have already started and I am just amazed by the color combination chosen by the yarn. It's just great. And yeah, I still have a couple of things that I need to figure out, but more or less it's ready to go. We need to, of course, take photos and as well write down the pattern in my nice and regular format. But yeah, here you go, the Bauer socks. They will come out hopefully by next podcast. And I know that you kind of enjoy this side of the house, a little bit of a history flight or lesson on the buildings that are inspiring my socks. I will come to that for the Bauer Palace as well very soon. Someone has mentioned that in Dutch or some other language, probably German as well, no clue, but that Bauer means a builder. And it's quite interesting because the fabric of these socks, being full color work, it's very sturdy, but at the same time they're really, really comfortable. So yeah, it's quite interesting that Bauer is related to buildings and to builder. So this can really be used as a work sock, if I can say that. Another thing that I've done with these socks is that I decided to knit my leg a little bit longer because I'm going through all this original design that I made, and I have a big bag there that is waiting for the glory days of publishing, so I'm not really wearing them. But I've noticed that all the socks have a quite short leg, which is not something that I use as much. And this is due probably to needing to knit quite fast, and the shortening up stuff works well. But thinking that the glories of publishing may not come at all, I do want to be able to wear these socks. And especially this one, the yarn was so precious and quite pricey as well. So I really want to wear this, and a longer leg, it's something that I probably will use so much more. So looking forward to get the pattern published, and I will let you know on the next podcast how that is going. So I told you that I haven't managed to finish much this week, and we are, 5 minutes, 10 minutes into the podcast, and I have finished my finished work. I didn't mention what I'm wearing because this was a finished work of last week, but this is actually my Anchor sweater by Petite Knits. This is my French Riviera edition. It's knitted up using this lovely yarn, which is Cotton Light by Drops. It's a 75% cotton and 25% polyamide. It's a lovely, lovely yarn, and it's super inexpensive as well. Turned out to be €1.50 per ball, and I have only used 10 balls. So you do the math, the entire jumper really cost nothing. I don't think even in H&M you can find a jumper of this price. But the yarn itself is really, really nice. It's really cool and fresh, so it's a perfect garment for the summer. As I mentioned in my previous video, I decided to do a couple of modifications. I added short rows for the back of the yoke so that the wearability would be a little bit better. I added a length of ribbing on my waist, almost doubling the amount of ribbing that is suggested in the pattern. This because the quality of cotton it's quite different from wool, and my knit tend to wrap up a little bit or twist up. How do you say that? So adding this 5 centimeters or 6 centimeters of ribbing to the waist actually made it look so much better, be flat on my waist, and that's great. And the last modification that I made is shaping or tapering the waist as well. So on the body I put the stitch markers corresponding to the middle of the underarms, and I decreases 4 or 6 stitches to each side on the correspondence of the underarm, so that I could get the body to do a little bit of a cone shape, which actually works so much better on my body shape. And yeah, I'm super happy with this jumper. I can't wait to get out and about with the jumper, go on holidays, and really be proud of a job that I made. And that really doesn't happen very often, so I'm extraordinarily excited about this jumper. As you can see, I used 2 colors, a denim blue and a natural color, natural white. And I use stripes all through the body, so I kept the number of stitches suggested for the yoke bands, and then I kept that number for the body as well, changing color each time, which works great. I wasn't sure about the horizontal stripes looking good, but the feedback from you guys has been amazing, so yeah, I'm very, very happy with this. So here is my Anchor sweater. Let's stop talking about old works and let's get into works in progress. And I have quite a few, many of which you have seen in my previous podcast as well. Starting with the first one, you have seen this as a cone basically of yarn and just a couple of rows, but I have managed to finish it and knit up the entire jumper. So this is another original design that I'm coming up with. and it's been quite of a struggle altogether. So let's talk about the yarn first, and then let's go into the construction. So the yarn that I used is this one. These are two cones of 100% super soft wool, and they are from Host Garn. This is their flannel grey, and this is Prussian blue. They are among my favorite yarns for finish works. They are among my less favorite yarns for knitting. They are drenched in oil, in spinning oil, and the fibers stick together so much, and it's such a struggle to knit with. But the finished work is so beautiful, and I absolutely love the result. So this makes me endure in actually knitting up with this yarn and keep buying this type of yarn just because I really love it very much when it's finished. But the motion of knitting, or the process of knitting, is an absolute nightmare. Anyway, this jumper has been knitted entirely using that yarn, which was a big labor of love. So I started from the bottom and up, and I'm really sorry if I hold this kind of awkwardly, but I just block it and it's still quite wet, so I'm trying not to get completely wet myself. Anyway, I started from the bottom and up using my most favorite number of stitches using this yarn. So you know me, I have knitted up so many jumpers out of this yarn, Holst Garn or super soft wool, and I know that my stitch count for the waist is 240 stitches. So this is what I've done with this as well. Knitted up the body, started a little color work, which actually it's quite interesting, and I really love the result of this color work. Joined into sleeves with again my most favorite count of stitches, increasing the sleeves to get the right amount for the body, and then joining in, doing a little bit of a raglan decrease that you can probably you can't probably see because it's so dark. So it's a lovely work, and you may have seen this yellow line going through. And why is that there, you may ask? Well, I am knitting this or designing this as an original pattern, and I know that I do wear jumpers all the time and I have so many of them, but if I am hanging around the house or working or just doing my daily chores, I tend to pick up a jacket, being, I don't know, a sporty jacket, a trucky top, or something like that. So much easier to put on a t-shirt, a jacket, and just go about your day. So I really wanted to get a cardigan out of this. Now, I don't know if this is a great idea, but we will see. I have been watching over and over Martin from Knit 365 here on YouTube. He have done a wonderful recap of the sticking process for a bubble sweater that he made, and he actually goes into very specific details on how to do the crochet reinforcement on the back and full sticking process, which is great, and I am actually planning to do that. So I didn't put any ribbing to keep track of my central band while knitting up this jumper. This because originally the idea was to knit this quickly, get it designed, sent to my tech editor, Destiny Knitting, and publish the pattern. But I really want to get some more value out of this knit, having this knit taken so much time and being the yarn kind of so difficult to knit with. So I really want something that I am going to use and that I will love, and hopefully you guys will as well. And so therefore I had to put a line in just to be aware where the center is, and then get all my bands quite snuggy and straight. The next step will be to crochet the reinforcement on the inside and then knit up the bottom bands as well. It's nice. I don't know if I absolutely love it for now, but yeah, it's okay. I am going to modify a little bit now the color and probably the body with the bottom band, and we'll see what the result is. I have been writing down this pattern step by step, so I know exactly the amount of stitches that I increase or decrease and picked up in every single step of this jumper, so it's quite well documented and it's going to be quite easy to write up the pattern. By the way, if you are interested in checking out my designing process, I just uploaded a video this week going through all the steps of my designing process. Might be interesting to you, might be not. I'm only an aspiring knitting designer, so that probably is not really an orthodox way to work, but works for me so far, and the feedback that I'm kind of receiving is decent enough, so happy days. That was my first work in progress. My second work in progress is more or less an update on my mom's jumper. So if you watch this video for the last few episodes, I have talking about a jumper that my sister have been wearing over last time I was back at home, and it turns out that my mom actually knitted up that sweater herself, coming up with her own color work. So being my mother not fuss about knitting design or anything like that, of course she didn't write down the pattern. It was just in her head when she was very young, and I have decided to come up with the actual pattern for the jumper. So I took very specific photos of the jumper, and I wrote down, or I drew down the stitch patterns for that jumper. Of course, the original one was sticked, and sleeves were drop sleeves, but I kind of wanted to get a personal twist and as well modernize a little bit the jumper. The jumper itself is very 80s, so I wanna go with something more modern. And here it is. I don't know if I can really show it off well, but I managed to finish the yoke, separate for the sleeves, and the new piece that you probably haven't seen last time is this little band of stranded colorwork, introducing a little bit of light blue as well, which I think it's really nice and popping. The original design, in the original design, the light blue was a little bit more muted, but I couldn't find anything that fits that. For this jumper, I'm once again using drops cotton, light, 75% cotton and 25 polyamide, and the needles that I'm used, they are 4.0. They are 4mm needles from Haya, which are amongst my favorite needles so far. Anyway, this is a big project. I am not planning to finish it anytime soon. The goal is to get at least a repetition of the design each week, which is not a repetition. What am I saying? It's basically a new part of the design. If you see the jumper, it's divided basically in bigger rows of color work with different designs all the way down to the bottom. So I am planning to get another of this design done by next podcast, and hopefully with a couple of more I will get the body done and I can start picking up for the sleeves, which is a great work. And this reminds me that I kind of want to crack on this and knit this. For some reason I have made some work at the beginning of last week, just after last podcast, and then I just left it because other stuff came up. So this reminds me that I wanna knit on this very soon. The next work in progress is, of course, my raised waffle blanket. This is a pattern that you can find on Ravelry. I don't quite recall the name of the designer, but I will put all the descriptions here. It's a free pattern, it's a crochet pattern, and I am making a big, giant, humongous blanket for my bed. It's almost 2 meters wide, and then I will knit up until I have yarn. I am using a 3.5 millimeter hook and this lovely Studio Donegal wool, which is 100% Irish wool, very, very coarse and rough. It's a DK2 Aran way, which works really, really well for crocheting. Unfortunately, I haven't done much on this project this week. I probably added a row or two. It's just that it's so long to knit and quite boring, so I do need a good movie and a quiet evening just to get through a row or two. Once again, I don't mind to rush this. It's a long-term project, and hopefully I will get it done by the end of the summer for the autumn and winter, but we'll see. The thing that I like is that the fabric is really, really dense, and it will be a very, very warm and cozy blanket, which is absolutely great. Usually all the blankets that I'm seeing here on YouTube or Ravelry, they are quite small, and rightfully so, because knitting a big bedspread, it's a huge amount of work and requires so much yarn, but I wouldn't have any use for a small blanket, so I really needed to put my energies and focus on something that I actually could use. I mean, all this knitting thing, of course, it's a lot of fun and it's a good way to pass your free time, but at the same time, I see my knitting as kind of utilitarian. Like, I need something to use. Something that I am not going just to display, but that I'm wearing, that I'm using in the house. So I don't see any point of making a very tiny blanket just as an exercise. Of course, if you have children that may enjoy a small blanket or a pet, that is a completely different situation. But yeah, it's not my business to knit a blanket just for the sake of. And of course, I don't knit shawls. So I am probably focusing my energies on a giant, massive blankets. If I knit the shawls, I probably would have focused all my energies into a shawl. Why am I not knitting shawls, you say? I don't know, never use scarves, and I don't think I will use a shawl, and so we get back into the utilitarian concept of creating and knitting, and yeah. Hopefully one day I will find a shawl pattern that I will use and that I will enjoy that very much to knit up, and we'll see. I feel like I'm losing a lot and I'm missing out a lot in the knitting world, not knitting shawls. All those amazing techniques and crafts that you can learn knitting a shawl, they are something that I really want to acquire, but probably translate it into a jumper or something like that. Anyway, my raised waffle blanket hasn't been loved that much. So let's put it back in my bag. By the way, this bag here comes from a company called the Vienna World. It's a piece of music, an original piece of music from Beethoven. I don't quite remember which piece, it's probably a quartet or something. And I bought this back when I was in music school, just to go to music school and put my books there, but I really love it. It's just a tote bag. But yeah, I am always looking out for more of these tote bags, and I always find that Vienna World is so expensive and the shipping is just crazy. So yeah, that's, if you have the chance to get one of these, if you live probably in Austria or Italy, get one. They are absolutely beautiful and really sturdy as well. My next project, it's a revival on a previous nightmare, and you remember that I have a lot of knitting nightmares. So you remember that a couple of podcasts ago, which is about a couple of months ago now, I was trying to knit a beautiful cable sweater from Brooklyn Tweed company, and it was called the Svensson sweater. I was knitting it up using a cone of yarn, and it was really a nightmare. It was difficult to follow, was quite tricky. The pattern is not well written in my opinion. I mean, I'm not probably that experienced to say that the pattern is not well written, but that pattern was extraordinarily difficult for me to follow. And I know that everybody and their dogs have knitted a jumper, and I know that people can do it and people can follow the pattern, but I probably don't have the mind space, or my brain doesn't get there. And yeah, I knitted up about 20 centimeters of this horrible cabling situation, and I just unraveled everything and I throw it in the bin, yarn and everything. I couldn't be arsed. So, living in Ireland and being constantly reminded by the great knitting tradition of this island, and as well lately seems like it's the only thing that Hollywood people, influencers are wearing. I am starting to feel the urge for a Irish cable sweater or an iron jumper. And my idea of iron jumper, and I'm really sorry for my fellow Irish people and all the purists out there, my idea is a big massive cabled sweater rather than going into the nitty-gritty of an iron jumper. So once again, I found myself browsing Ravelry, looking for a cable sweater that could be knitted in the round, that would be quite easy, and especially that a lot of people have knitted. And my eyes dropped through my favorite things knitwear websites. And I found the sweater number 15, which is a great, quite simple, in my opinion, cable sweater. It's all the same type of cable that repeats to the entire sweater, with kind of big, oversized sleeves, and yeah, nothing really else going on there. So what have I done? Ta-da! I casted it on. It's only a very tiny bit of cable now. Basically, this is the back of the sweater, if I'm reading right the pattern. And so far, I have to say, this has been a dream to knit. It's not being difficult at all. The pattern is so easy to follow. I had just a quick problem at the very beginning. I couldn't count the rows. The pattern was basically saying knit row 5 to 6, or repeating row 1 and 2, and I was like, where is row 4? Anyway, solve that issue, I am flying through this and I can't really put it down. I started last night and I knit it up so quickly. The first few repeats is just great. I can't wait to stop this recording and get through the next cable twist, which is lovely. For this pattern I am using this cone of yarn. This is a fingering weight 100% British wool from Woolly Knit, and the color is misty grey if I'm right, but once again I'm going to put all the description here. This cone here, if I have to compare it with Holst yarn, has very much less spinning oil, and it makes the whole knitting activity is so much more enjoyable than Holst yarn. My issue here is if I will love the finish work as much as I do love the finish work for Holst yarn. As you recall, I have bought a couple of cones from Woolly Knits back when the really great Crea Bea here on YouTube was partnering with Woolly Knits with a discount code, so I got a few cones there, never used them, but yeah, this is just the first time that I'm making a full jumper out of this yarn. I'm holding the yarn double, so it creates a sort of light decay. And so far, yeah, I'm very happy. Did I swatch for this jumper? I didn't swatch, and I am not going to. But I know that the pattern gives 25 to 35 centimeters of ease, so I am going to be safe 100%. I don't mind if the jumper will be a little boxy, as being a big cable sweater doesn't matter to me. Nice and warm and big. My cable needle just fell on the ground. That is something that I must look into. I wonder, when I was knitting my previous experiment with cable, the Venetian sweater, I found that knitting without cable was probably the way to go. But unfortunately I haven't retained the notion of knitting without a cable, so knitting without a cable needle, I mean. So I probably need to go back into this and look up how to do that again. I wonder if that will work for this jumper. If you have knitted cable, do you prefer to use a needle or do you prefer to go without needles? Let me know. And if you, each way, what's your suggestion? How do I improve my speed on cabling, or as well the enjoyment of doing cables? That so far is not something that I feel. I love the result. I don't feel joy making them. Hopefully this will change. Anyway, this is the very beginning of my sweater number 15 by my favorite things knitwear. I think we are almost done with works in progress, and if I look around the mess that I created, I only have one to go. Here it is. It's another pair of socks. Let me tidy it up a little bit for you. So I haven't done much, as I spent my entire week knitting my original design and other pair of socks and my other works, but I have managed to start this a couple of days ago, and I'm going through a phase of loving this so much. So let me tell you a little bit about the pattern. This is the Maple Ridge socks by Katie Utterly, and it comes from this lovely book, which is a custom sock. It's a great book, gives you a lot of sock inspiration and ideas on how to make your own designs, how to make your sock pattern fit better, how to rework existing sock pattern and stuff like that. Unfortunately, there seems not to be a proper picture without showing the entire pattern, but let me try. I have no clue if you can see anything from the camera, but these are the socks. It's basically a very simple pattern with a very simple texture on the sock, made out of a combination of knits and pearls. Not gonna tell you anything more, otherwise I give up the pattern. It's a pattern for sale, and you can find it in this book or indeed on Ravelry. All the links to the pattern that I'm talking about are going to be below in the description. So, the idea of this sock, how did it come up? Well, while I was intensively knitting on my original designs and being more or less sick of having to think so much about designing and color work, writing and clarity on my pattern and math, I was craving for, and I am still craving for, just following a pattern from another design, a very clear pattern, and just walk through while I'm doing other activities, rather than having to stop and write down stuff or think or do other things. So I was looking for patterns, and while doing that, I was watching YouTube, as you do, because if you are a YouTuber or if you are a knitter, it's very likely that you watch YouTube. And I came upon this great podcaster and knitter, it's Paula, and she has a channel called Stitched by Mrs. D, and I'm going to put her links below in the description as well. She knits wonderful socks using beautiful multicolored yarn, marble yarn, self-striping yarns and stuff like that. And I have never used marbled yarn, I never use self-striping yarn, I never ever use multicolored yarn, ever. Because I kind of don't feel like I like it so much, or I would have a proper use out of that. But seeing her designs, her socks, made my mind click, and I kind of felt like I want to try and I want to get something using different color of yarn, a little bit of madness as well, and a little bit of texture on my sock. So I went out to my local yarn shop, which is called This Is Knit. It's in a beautiful, beautiful building in the city center of Dublin called the Powerscourt Centre. Is an amazing experience. It looks like it's out of an Instagram influencer account type of thing. Full colors, full pastel colors and yarns everywhere. It's just amazing. Anyway, I went there and I got a few balls of yarn. So the one that I'm using for these socks, and I need to read the label, it's from King Cole, which is their zigzag sock yarn 75 and 25. This is 100 grams ball by 420 meters. So you get just regular sock yarn. And the color work that I'm using is called San Diego. It's this lovely combination of oranges and greens and creams and dark brown colors, which gives you this wonderful, wonderful color combination here. It's a sort of self-striping yarn, but using this pattern with a little bit of texture on it, I kind of feel like the stripes melt into each other, creating this lovely variety of colors. So I am enjoying very much the process, and I am enjoying very much the yarn. And thank you so much, Mrs. D or Paula, for your inspiration, and this leads up into acquisition. So, acquisition, yeah, this yarn here that I just talked about, this is Zigzag from King Cole, and it's the colorway San Diego. I got as well another colorway, this is Mayfly. It's a more grayish, cool tone of yarn, and it's probably a different type of striping as well. Which I really love. This is basically a combination of blues, lights and darks, and beige and greys, which gives a lovely wintry type of feeling. The idea here is to knit up a big, long type of stocking or warm socks to wear during the winter. The yarn itself is a very heavy fingering weight yarn. It's almost like a DK or a sport weight yarn, but not quite. Anyway, it's lovely. It's quite inexpensive as well. I would say I paid each 100-gram ball around €4, which is nothing. On the same day, I got two West Yorkshire spinners. One is the Signature 4-ply and the other one is Color Lab. The Color Lab is a Technicolor colorway. This is a DK yarn, sock yarn 75-25, and we have here 225 meters by 100 grams. It's a regular DK yarn for sock knitting. I suppose I will use this for sock knitting, of course. And it's basically the colors of the rainbow. I really wanted to get ready for Pride Month in a couple of days, so I have a few rainbows going on. Never knitted socks with DK. If you have any recommendation or any pattern to suggest, please send me a message or leave a comment here. I am really interested in understanding how DK can turn into a good usable sock, and yeah, so here you have the first one, Color Lab DK from West Yorkshire Spinner. And the Signature 4-ply is 100 gram by 400 meters. It's a little heavier than the King Cole that we just saw, but at the same time I can tell it's a little thinner. So I suppose this is due to the type of wool that I use. Once again, 75-25, but probably the quality of the wool is different. I don't know. It's a lovely rainbow color, and the colorway is called Room Paradise, which I find extremely nice and actually reminds me of like the Caribbean and stuff like that. It is, once again, another rainbow, and here you have it. I can't wait to try and knit a pattern with this. It's gonna be super mega fun. Talking about rainbows, I got two more rainbows, and I got this Lang. This is a sock yarn by Lang Yarn. I never heard of them before. The colorway is 2114. I think it's just called a rainbow, but I couldn't find any information on their website. These are 50 grams balls, and they come into the 210 meters range. I can tell it's a very soft yarn, and as you can see from the label here, they kind of show you how the yarn will look. It's a sort of a gradient rainbow for the entire sock. The challenge here will be to be able to use the right amount of yarn, just not to play yarn chicken at the end. So we'll see how this goes. I haven't opened it yet, or I haven't even tried out anything with this, so it's gonna be quite interesting. This was probably the more expensive of the lot, being around the €8 for the 50 gram balls. So yeah, Lang, interesting. And the last one, and I am extremely excited with this yarn is, of course, Regia. Perfect. This is 7525. The colorway is 1735, and we have here about 400 meters for 100 grams. I know that everything is included in this ball of yarn. This ball of yarn cost me €9, which is quite crazy for my general sock yarn purchases, but I really wanted to try this. I know I'm passionate, or I follow Arne and Carlos very much, and they do design for Regia their sock yarns. So the way this works, I'm supposing, is that inside of the label you will have your sock pattern, and it will tell you everything on how to use this yarn. So you see how there is a yellow strand of yarn just bobbing out of the bowl. This will be the savage of the entire roll. So you can use this as a reference for starting one sock and finishing the other, if I understand this correctly. So basically, at the end of the day, with this bowl, you will get two perfect matching pair of socks in the rainbow color once again. I absolutely cannot wait to try this. It's going to be so much fun and so mindless as well. You're not going to think of anything. It's just there, and you have the recipe here. Everything is done. I really love this very much. We'll see how it turns out. That was it for acquisition yarn-wise, but I do have another acquisition, which is this lovely book here. I've been waiting for this book for the last 3 months. This is Nordic Knits with Birger Berge. I hope it's a right pronunciation of the name, but Birger Berge should be this guy here, and it's the author of this book. It's full with, can't show you anything because it's all patterned down, so yeah, but it's full of very interesting colorwork designs with like a Scandinavian twist. It's absolutely lovely. I cannot wait to custom something from this book. They are really designs that are on my wave. Do you say that? Anyway, this is a very, I say very once again, good book if you're into color work, if you're into kind of Scandinavian designs. Get it, you won't regret it. I had a look into the patterns and they are so well written. It's just the right style that I like, being not too much or not too short of information. Is just the right flow and super easy to follow as well. Once again, you get a few sweaters, garments, then you have accessory. I've seen a tie, a bow tie as well. You know I'm fan of a bow tie. Cup cozies, bottle cozies, and other objects for the house, scarves, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I'm not sponsored by any means, but I really love this. So much resonates on my vibes, on my chords, that I am so grateful that this came. Anyway, here we go. I don't think I have anything else to show you today. It's been a very exhausting couple of weeks. Work-wise, super busy. I am turning into the end of my kind of training in the new job, and now things start to sort of run. I can't say smoothly, but sort of run, and everybody's just leaving everything on my hands to handle. I'm basically growing up, if you want an analogy, so it's very stressful, a little bit difficult to follow, but we'll get there eventually. As well as it's been very busy in the garden. I have been planting new plants, removing old ones. You know, It's spring, everything is sprouting up, and Ireland is a little behind the season. It's been quite cold, so now everything starts to get actually quite nice, and I want my little tiny garden to look as nice as possible, so I spent a lot of time there. And yeah, that's basically it. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider to subscribe to this channel, give it a thumbs up, really helps very much this tiny little community to grow. Leave me a message if you have any recommendation for me, especially on cable knitting. And yeah, we are so close now to the 2000 subscribers, and I am planning a giveaway, so think about what you would like to see in a giveaway and let me know, because I'm kind of out of ideas right now. I was thinking, of course, yarns. I was thinking, of course, project bags. But yeah, yarns is always yarn. Always is nice to receive some yarn. So would you prefer to get, I don't know, hand-dyed yarn rather than maybe some Studio Donegal, which is very Irish? I don't know if you can find it outside here, Ireland. Or would you prefer to have a project bag? I'm not quite familiar with project bags, so let me know what you think. What is a good project bag to include in a giveaway? And apart from that, that's it. I will see you in a couple of weeks, and take care. Bye bye.